Hey, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well in Great League Remix and also getting ready for the second split of Ultra League in Season 8 of GBL. And in today's video, I'll be going over my Legend run, which happened in Great League Remix using a team consisting of Shadow, Kanto Ninetales, Sableye, Safe Swap, as well as Ferrothorn in the back. So first of all, this team is not created by me. It was made by LoafenOakenfold, who is another creator, and I'll have his information in the description of the video as well. So this was one of his suggestions to me to kind of try out, and I was already intrigued by the Shadow Kanto Ninetales, as Fire is very underrepresented in this format, despite having some positive matchups against, say, Froslass, but also with the Ferrothorn in the back. So right now, Great League Remix meta kind of all over the place, but you're definitely seeing a lot more water types in Empoleon, Castform, and Lanturn, and Ferrothorn handles all of those Pokemon very, very well as long as you can clear the way. So the main thing is this team might look like a balanced team with the Sableye Safe Swap, but the actual goal of Sableye, as I found out, or at least for me, is to draw out the Mandibuzz or to draw out the Obstagoon so that you can have better matchups with Ferrothorn in the back. So oftentimes with those two removed, and they're very rarely on the same team, with those two Pokemon removed, Ferrothorn can often sweep the remaining two Pokemon. So let's go ahead and get into the battles, and I'll show you the last 10 battles that I had on my way to Legend. Alright, so getting into the first battle, I'm going up against 31 Scorpion, and going to be leading the Ninetales into Obstagoon. So this is exactly where you want to see the Obstagoon, and you can win the one shield going straight Weather Ball, and then be able to farm down with Ember afterwards. And it really depends on the shielding scenarios here. If the Obstagoon, for some reason, decides to double shield, then you're going to be in a really bad spot because the rest of the team is very, very weak to it. But in this case, this is really good for me. My opponent decides to no shield the first Weather Ball, and he also let me throw first, so usually Obstagoon will outpace Ninetales to the second one, or to the first one, and then and here of course my opponent does get the boost, but it's a little bit too late. I'm going to be able to Ember this Obstagoon the entire way down, so really good start for us here, and I do see that the Golbat is coming in, and I thought it was going to be safe, but Golbat actually does very well against the backline too, so I'm going to have to rely on Sableye to kind of apply some pressure to this Golbat, and then hope that, Ferrothorn has a good matchup in the back. So I am going to be able to reach the foul play here, and it's probably going to be CMP, so I'm going to grab a shield here against the Golbat, and I'm going to have to call this here. So a very uncomfortable matchup here. Of course, the new Poison Fang users with their nukes, always going to be a problem, and I wound up taking a Shadow Ball to the face. So my opponent is going to aggressively swap into their Ferrothorn, or into their Froslass, which I can meet with Ferrothorn, but if problem here is that you're still taking neutral damage from these avalanches. So you can see here, even at neutral damage, that still does quite a bit to Ferrothorn. And I'm going to go for Power Whips here. And initially, I wasn't sure how much damage the Power Whip was going to do. So if you watch the stream from the Legend run, I made quite a bit of mistakes here. And here, I probably should have just gone for the Power Whip. And instead I decided to overcharge, seeing that my opponent was also overfarming, and I went for the Flash Cannon instead. So this ends up being the huge mistake that puts me in a bad spot, because had I just Power Whipped and tried to force the farm down, my opponent would have threw energy, and my Sableye would be getting the farm here, instead of my opponent's Golbat getting the farm. And here, it's a very easy call for my opponent, can just go for the Poison Fang, and that unfortunately is going to leave us in a 0-1 deficit at the beginning of the run. So very unfortunate right there, but it's also kind of a sign that, you know, I haven't played Ferrothorn for quite some time. Maybe the last time I queued it up was Season 4 when the Caleb Ping 2.0 Grassline was very popular. So still kind of getting some of those nuances out of the way. All right, coming into the second battle, we're going up against Jefferson Frank, and I'm going to be leading Ninetales into Nidoqueen. So this is a losing matchup, but it's not as bad as you might think. However, the longer that you stay in against Nidoqueen, as you know, with the Poison Fang and also those Poison Jabs, it is going to start adding up. So here I am going to opt to shield the first one, and then I'm going to go for a Weather Ball, try to grab a shield, and then dip it into my Sableye. So kind of found out earlier in the night that the longer you stay in against Nidoqueen, the worse it's going to get. So, and it's also going to be able to outpace. So I am going to swap into Sableye, which does draw out the Mandibuzz, which is a very good thing. But unfortunately here, we're at one shield apiece. So this is going to be a much tougher situation than I originally anticipated. So I'm going to go for the return here. I'm going to land it. Unfortunately for Sableye, there's really no way that it can win switch up against Mandibuzz. So I'm going to take the foul play here. It does do quite a chunk of damage, and I'm going to try to make it to the return. But what I should have done here, knowing that I wasn't going to make it to the return, I should just throw in the foul play here, because what this creates is a situation where my Ninetales is going to struggle trying to farm this Mandibuzz down, and I really need to bring energy into this Nidoqueen matchup. So I'm going to take the first one here, and I kind of realized at this point that I got to put it all on Ferrothorn, because my opponent is going to outpace to another foul play here, and I'm just going to have to deal as much damage as I can here and then swap back out. So switch timer thankfully is back up. I'm going to swap over to Nidoqueen, and Gonna get to the Power Whip here, and my opponent does a great job here, CMP tying on the move here, and I have to make another call again. I wanted this to be a Poison Fang really bad, but it is an Earth Power, unfortunately, and it also is CMP, so this is even worse for us. Gonna have to go for the Power Whip here, and my opponent has a Froslass in the back. So while there were some decent matchups for Ferrothorn, had I just called that bait correctly, I think we would have been fine. And my opponent does CMP me once again to the Power Whip here, and I'm gonna go for it, but at this point, the Ferrothorn is way too low in health to be able to get to another move, and my opponent is going to be able to farm down the Ferrothorn and then carry an Avalanche into the next matchup. So going to be just a couple of embers away once again, but we're not going to get there, and that's going to take us out. So another very difficult line to play against. The Nidoqueen lead with the Mandibuzz safe swap to hard punish the Sableye. Coming into the third match of the run, and it's already not looking like a great start, but we have to go up against Cynics. And this is going to be a pretty rough one too. So leading Ninetales into Shadow Hypno, and usually for Hypno against these fire types, it can definitely just confusion you down straight in the 2 shields. So this is not a very good start for me, and I need to figure out if there's a Mandibuzz in the back. So I do safe swap into Sableye to kind of carry out the plan, and there is one. So this is kind of a decent situation for us. They do take the return, and again, should be throwing the foul play here when I get to it, just to be able to do some chip damage, as Sableye cannot win switch. So gonna take the foul play here from Mandibuzz, and right as I get to it, he's gonna get to the second foul play. So here's a little bit of a mistake here. If I had just chipped it a little bit, I could actually and put on CMP, I could actually have enough health for Ninetales to farm down, but I have to come in here and basically have to commit to a 1 shield and very, very aggressive farm down. So this is not going to be a good situation for us, but going to take the foul play here, and I'm going to try to get as much energy as possible, but my opponent does hit the second foul play right there, so I do have to shield this up. This is going to be very, very tricky, actually my opponent aggressively swaps into the Castform, which is a kind of a smart move here, because he didn't want to get farmed down onto the Ninetales, and then he's going to bring the Castform here, and he's just throwing Weather Balls here, and initially I was like, oh, this is fine, right? Like, there's no big deal, don't have to worry about this too much, but these Water Guns and Weather Balls actually add up to a point where if Hypno wanted to come in and 2-show confusion down the rest of my team, he is going to be able to. So I decided to farm up a little bit. I have to throw right away, and right now I'm kind of realizing this is a very bad spot, because you know he's probably going to bring in the Hypno here and going to be able to sack or be able to confusion us all the way down, but he brings in the Mandibuzz, and that's even worse because I do have to dump energy. I can't Bullet Seed down the Mandibuzz, right? And now when the Hypno comes in, I realize it's a little bit too late. I'm a little bit too low on health. And originally the plan here was, you know, if I could at least get him to dump energy and throw a Fire Punch at my Ferrothorn, I should have been fine. But you're going to see here that the Weather Balls just simply do not do enough to this Hypno. And despite getting both shields down and being able to chunk it down to pretty low health, I'm not going to be able to reach the last charge move that I need. So in this case here, realizing the lose con right here, I'm just going to bring in Ferrothorn and just let it go, because really well played by Cynics right there. Even if you had a negative matchup with Castform, identifying that he just needed to get some health down on my Ferrothorn and be able to come in with Hypno and sweep in the end was a really, really good call by him. So starting off the set very, very negative 0-3. I'm going to see how we can bounce back in this one. Getting into the fourth match of this set here, going up against Amazed and Confused, we're going to be playing Ninetales into Bronzong. So finally a positive lead for us here, and my opponent's going to safe swap into a Charizard. So I decided to go to Sableye here, mainly because I think that Kanto Ninetales probably doesn't have the greatest matchup against Charizard. So I'm going to bring in the Sableye here, even if I know that it has a better matchup against the Bronzong. But I'm going to get baited here by the first Dragon Claw, which is not a great sign, but able to grab a shield back with this foul play here. And in this case, I think the next move is definitely going to be the Blast Burn. There's kind of no reason for him to throw another bait here, so gonna shield this up, and as soon as I see it's the Blast Burn, I'm gonna commit to the Shadow Claw down here. No reason to throw another move here, and unfortunately my opponent gets to a move right before I'm able to KO with Shadow Claw, so gonna hope I survive this, and yeah. So despite not being an XL Sableye right there, still able to live with 1 HP, and I see a Rainy Castform come in the back, which means that this is pretty much just GG's right here. The Ferrothorn is going to be able to carry, and going to bring in the Ferrothorn, start gaining a bunch of energy here. At the very least, I can chunk the Bronzong down if it decides to swap back in, and my opponent instead decides to go ahead and surrender, not being able to see a win condition right there. So able to bounce back in the set with at least 1 win. And for the last battle of the set, we're going up against for you to witness. And if you ever had a Steel Core Breaker for this team, this would pretty much be the one. So Zweilous able to wall Kanto Ninetales the entire way through, and I have Side Shock as well. So even if I had the Solar Beam, might have done a little bit more damage, but I have to go for these Weather Balls here. And yeah, this Zweilous is going to be able to hard wall both Sableye as well as Kanto Ninetales. So make a decision here to sacrifice the Kanto Ninetales to have the best shot at winning. The one thing is, hopefully in the back that because you're seeing the dark type in the front, hopefully there's better matchups for Sableye in the back. So gonna have to sacrifice this Ferrothorn as well. My opponent doing a great job here hitting the CMP. This is definitely going to be a Dark Pulse, going to be dealing a lot of damage here, and I'm going to overfarm by just a little bit, going for the Power Whip right here, and this should be able to KO the Zweilous. And my opponent is probably going to bring in the hard counter, and unfortunately, as I look at the top right, it is going to be a Melmetal, so I have to swap over to the Sableye. Now, this is a decent matchup for Sableye because the Shadow Claws do chunk away, but the Rock Slides are definitely going to hurt as well. So, going to shield this up, and going to try to get to double foul play here to try to force some shields, but opponent does a great catch. I don't think it was super relevant to catch right there, but does bring in the Nidoqueen, and I'm going to have to, this is going to be put all onto Sableye. It's going to go for another foul play here. Going to grab a shield for sure. And unfortunately, in this particular position, I have to call the charge move bait here. So I think my opponent also sensed this because they could potentially reach another Earth Power, or if I shield this one here, they're going to be able to take me out regardless with the Melmetal in the back. So I make the most efficient play here, and I top left. So getting off to a really, really bad start here, going 1-4 at 29.78. So going to see how we can respond to this bad set here. So at this point, after that set, 29.38, minus 40 for that 1-4 set that we just had. And at this point, I thought about kind of stopping the stream and just regrouping for the next day, but thankfully my chat convinced me to fire up one more set before I went to bed. So let's see how that one went. Alright, so time for some redemption here. 29.38, we need a 5-0 still to get to Legend, and we're going up against Corrido 91, and we're picking up a very positive lead here. Jumpluff into the Ninetales here, and my opponent is going to dip immediately into Bronzong, so double weak team to Shadow Ninetales here. Very, very good news for me, and I'm going to throw the foul play here before my opponent can get to the potential payback, just so that he can't suddenly flip switch advantage right here, and this is going to be really good news for us because the Shadow Jumpluff is going to be able to come back, but we're going to get off this return, and despite how hard this return actually hits, Shadow Jumpluff pretty tanky, so I'm going to deal just a little bit over 50% of its health right there, and going to CMP onto a move right there. I thought this was going to be the Aerial Ace here, but it's actually Energy Ball, and it hurts quite a bit onto Sableye, but again, the farm doesn't matter so much here as Ninetales can come in and just delete it right away. Should have waited out the switch timer right there because the Lanturn is coming in, so had this been maybe a Castform, this would have been a little bit awkward of a situation, but I'm going to go ahead and get the Side Shock off. And my opponent does shield, which means I can bring in the Ferrothorn, and this is going to be an absolute hard wall right there. GG's to my opponent right there, but we got hard walled in the previous match of the last set, and we're going to be able to hard wall our opponents in this one right back. Into the second battle of the set, we're going up against Emilio, and he is also going for Legend, so leading Ninetales into the Jellicent, so a very terrible lead right here, but thankfully we have two answers in the back, so going to bring in the Sableye here, and it's not an Obstagoon, it's going to be a Wigglytuff, so got kind of worried right here because the one issue here is that although I'm going to be able to get a move off, Wigglytuff doesn't throw any charge moves initially, so this is going to be kind of a bad situation because the switch timer is not going to be up yet, and I'm going to have to wait out the full switch timer here so I don't get trapped in against this Jellicent, but I'm going to come in here and just commit to the Ember down. I'm going to have to utilize this Ninetales to try to get off as much damage as possible, so I'm going to go for the Side Shock over here before my opponent can get to another move, and it is a Bubble Jellicent, so this is even worse for us. So I'm going to get to a Side Shock here, and then my switch timer is still not up yet, so I'm like, okay, I have to get to another move here. I'm going to try to get to the Side Shock, and my opponent thankfully is over farming in this case, which is not the worst because I would have to let the Ninetales go anyways, but when my opponent shields that second Side Shock right there, that is a really good sign for me. I'm going to go ahead and come in with Ferrothorn, shield this up because it will be the Shadow Ball, might be the one that's doing the most damage, and he has a Shadow Skunktank in the back, so this is kind of where I make a mistake initially. Should have just gone for Flash Cannon right here. There's no reason not to because most, like I said before, most Ferrothorns in this format are carrying Mirror Shot, and my opponent didn't feel threatened right there. That Flash Cannon could have definitely flipped the match for the better, but here, 2 Power Whips, still going to get this Skunktank very low, but I know that my opponent here is going to reach 2 crunches, and going to shield one up and commit to the hard farm down. So this is the only way that I can potentially have a chance in this match again. So my opponent is going to get off the second crunch. It does hurt Ferrothorn quite a bit, and I'm actually like almost in bubble range kind of, but going to be able to get off one more Power Whip right here to force a shield, and actually as I see it, my opponent is actually pretty low. So gonna CMP tie right there, and all those bubbles that my opponent had invested into the Ninetales initially, my opponent is energy dry. So I see the opportunity, I come in here, gonna have to reach the Weather Ball here, and right before I hit the last bubble right there, 1 HP and a dream, we get to the Shadow Fire Weather Ball, which actually is gonna be able to KO the Jellicent. So a very close match here, got hard countered in the lead, hard countered in the swap right there, but we were able to pull that back on the power of Ninetales, as well as Ferrothorn coming in, dealing a bunch of damage, being able to threaten that last shield from Jellicent. All right, coming into the third match, we're going up against Andy Hunter, 97, and again, we get an Obstagoon lead. So back to normal here. No more Jellicent, no more favorable leads, but this is a pretty even one. Gonna go again for the 1 shield Weather Ball and Ember farm down. So my opponent is gonna throw the first Night Slash here, kind of hoping that he doesn't boost here, and that's great for us. So gonna throw this Weather Ball here, and my opponent actually decides to take the Weather Ball, which is a sign for me to be able to Ember and farm down. So I'm gonna get right before the end right there, gonna shield this up, of course. The Ember will KO the Obstagoon, and my opponent is gonna Night Slash here, and actually aggressively swaps into a Froslass, catching the Ember on the Froslass, which is very confusing. So gonna go for the Weather Ball here, and I could have swapped out the Sableye here, but instead I'm going to stay in, get to the second Weather Ball against this Froslass, and gonna force the second shield if I can. So this is kind of good for me because you know, I get the sense that his backline is weak to Ninetales, but this is fantastic. Now we have a shields down Sableye against the rest of the world, and gonna bring in Sableye right here, and I am gonna commit to the Shadow Claw down. It's a much better decision to bring in the Sableye here over the Ferrothorn, because you can't really Bullet Seed the Froslass down without getting hit by 2 moves. So here I have a shields down Sableye versus the rest of the world, and I'm going to take a look at the top left or top right corner here. My opponent is going to send in a Shadow Victreebel real quick and swap into Obstagoon, but I was ready for it, and now that I have a return ready for the Shadow Victreebel, my opponent sees the writing on the wall, and unfortunately it's going to be lights out for him. So we're 3-0 in the set right now. Let's see how far we can go. All right, in our 4th battle of the set, we're going up against Hiroki, and going to be leading Ninetales into Mandibuzz. So again, that neutral matchup that we want to see in the front. I'm going to go ahead and then this one's actually an Air Slash one, so it's even better. Because it's an Air Slash, you are going to be able to outpace it to those Weather Balls. So I like that particular configuration of Mandibuzz because you get to make the decision first. And here my opponent's going to go for the foul play here. Going to let the first one go, no problem. Even if the Air Slash is chunk, you're still going to be able to get the second move. And I am going to go for the second move right here. And I'm going to see if my opponent decides to let this go or not. And here my opponent is going to let this one go. So very good news for the back line. And my opponent here actually catches me off guard, comes in with the Empoleon, snipes me down with that waterfall. So not a fantastic situation, but we do have the Ferrothorn to be able to answer the Empoleon. And this is going to hurt, but it's just going to be a drill peck, not a big deal. So going to be able to double up here. And then the good thing about Ferrothorn, you are going to be able to outpace, but a Power Whip does not KO, as Empoleon also takes neutral damage from those Power Whips. So here, I can see that my opponent is pretty low here, so I'm going to store a move. And I'm not going to throw right here. I'm going to take this Drill Peck again. It's not going to KO, but I'm going to return the favor to him, bring in that Sableye, be able to snipe it down. So you got me right there. I'm going to get you right back, and it's another Ferrothorn in the back. So this is not the best situation for me, but I do have an energy lead on Sableye, and then the Mandibuzz is almost KO'd. So as long as I can get this Ferrothorn low enough, I do have a Power Whip stored in the back, and my opponent throws here almost immediately. So I'm thinking this can't be a Power Whip, right? So Power Whip takes 4 to get to. It's a Mirror Shot. So I can kind of see what my opponent's trying to do here. He's going to go straight for Mirror Shots, and is going to try to fast move me down. So I am going to have to start shielding, unfortunately, but at least we let the first move go and wasted all that energy, right? And the good thing is, because we've thrown so many charge moves here, my switch timer is actually coming back up. So all I have to do here is I'm going to get to the foul play here. My opponent's over farming, trying to get to that Power Whip, and here I am going to go for the foul play, and because the switch timer is back up, I'm going to throw this Power Whip here. It's going to be able to waste all that energy on Ferrothorn, take it all out, and my opponent only has the Mandibuzz with like 2 HP left in the back. He sees the writing on the wall. He is finished, doesn't want to take the smoke, and we're going to go 4-0. So right here, we're definitely in the redemption track, right? So once again, that night on stream, I was quite a few times just one win away from Legend right here. So once again, we find ourselves in the same situation, 4-0 at 29-38. Let's see if we can, well, you guys already know, but let's see how the last match plays out. All right, and it's time for the winning in against Matchy Mackerson. This is for all the marbles here. Can we go 5-0? We pick up the Obstagoon lead, which is exactly what we need. And again, going to play out the one shield. And here, my opponent is actually going to wait to throw, which is even better for me. I get to make the first shielding decision for my opponent right here, whether he wants to shield this or not, and he decides to let it go. So this is already fantastic. I get a free Ember through. Going to let this Night Slash go through, and just going to commit to the farm down with the one shield. So Opponent is going to reach the move right before I KO it, and once again I sneak the Ember through, so hopefully no surprise swap-ins this time, but going to show up the Night Slash, and my opponent decides to let the Obstagoon go, so this seems already pretty good for me, and my opponent brings in a Shadow Mawile, so haven't seen one of those in Remix for quite some time, but going to be able to grab a shield here, and it's important here that I don't switch to anything because I definitely want to maintain my alignment, and I'm going to bring in the Sableye. So here I know that Shadow Mawile is just going to rip through the Ferrothorn, so I'm going to shield this up just in case, and it's just a power-up punch, but that's not a big problem because that means I can get to a foul play here and potentially Shadow Claw down if I want to before he reaches something like an Iron Head or something else. So going to go for the foul play here. My opponent lets it go, and it's a Shadow Victreebel in the back. And this is going to definitely be a GG. So this is definitely one matchup that I do know. Ferrothorn against Shadow Victreebel, you can go straight Flash Cannon, and the 0-1 shield, you can still win this matchup. So my opponent is going to let this one go, calling the bait, but it was not a bait. Instead, we go 5-0, and this is going to be our Legend set. And able to claim our 5-0 set at 29-38. We are going to hit 30-13, and that is going to be Legend for Season 8 of GBL in the Great League Remix. So overall, you guys can see, I tried to show, the last 10 battles right there. Definitely a lot of ups and downs. I was only 22 points away, but we had to take a small detour with a 1-4 set before going 5-0 to regain our elo right there. But overall, this team is really fun, and hopefully I've been able to showcase how strong Ferrothorn is. So big shout out again to LoafenOakenfold for his amazing team suggestion right here. At the time that this video goes up, I think there's still going to be about 16 hours or so left of Great League Remix, so you guys can definitely try this out before we go into Ultra League. But yeah, this is a very solid team, and I had a ton of fun playing it on stream. So also kind of opened my eyes to potentially new Pokemon instead of kind of sticking with the meta. So that was also a very great experience. So anyways, if you like this content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.